Nicole for Timeout with Tom. Nicole, what's your question for Tom?
The big question is, what's the scoop for next season? Anything new, different? What are we doing?
Ooh.
It's good. We'll keep some of that a secret, but Vegas for sure. And one big thing I'm excited to talk about is we are doing a legit award show, like Move of the Year, Team of the Year in Vegas at the Sahara, and it's going to be like a players party at a pool at Vegas at Sahara, so it's going to be amazing. I'm pretty excited. It's one of the coolest things we've ever done, I think.
That's sick. I love that. A players pool party. I'm in.
We gotta go shopping.
Oh yeah, we do.
All right, Tom, what is your question for Nicole?
So you seem to coach with a little bit of attitude, maybe some sass, we'll call it, right?
Woo! Sassy pants.
Do you feel like that's necessary just to come right out the box with, or is it something you've built up through time?
Realistically, when I first started, it was very nonchalant, but I met with Nikki McEvers, and she was like, listen, you're gonna be one of the boys. You gotta just get in there and say, hey, like, this is the scoop. So I walk into a pit, and I'm like, hey, it's my way or the highway. If you don't like it, we're gonna win points. And the stats don't lie. I've only placed, top 10 at least. So it's kind of the goal. You have to, especially a woman in coaching, you have to establish that you're the dominant one, because you will be walked all over, because it's very rare and far between. So you gotta go in there with you own it.
We actually have a couple women coaches now, so that's pretty impressive.
It's rare, but I love when they all come out. I'm like, yes, let's keep it going. There's not a lot of us, but when there is a lot of us, we have to be kind of cutthroat.
Yeah, I'm going to throw in another thing. And we actually have 12 women's teams coming to the World Cup this year, pro. So that's also pretty cool.
The more women we get in this sport, I think is the best. We have to,
it.
in all aspects, right? Like coaching and playing and all of it. We need it everywhere. So I'm hoping we can just really keep capitalizing on that.
Let's hope so. All right, well, thanks. Good question.
What question do you have for Tom Cole?
Well, Tom, with the addition of Goose Island and Logan Landry Logistics, who else do we have in the wings? Because I'm really excited about these outside sponsors, which is what paintball's needed for a long time.
That's a good one. I don't like tipping my hat too much, but Goose Island's part of the Budweiser group there, Anheuser-Busch, so I'll just leave it at that. That's kind of like the teaser into that, so I'll hit you with a good one. It's something I get chapped about all the time. So last year y'all were, how long ago was the semi-pro?
2 years.
2 years ago. So how well do you think the semi-pros, the top 4 semi-pros would do if I just suddenly teleported them into the pro division? Right now, like today, if suddenly I said we're going to bring 4 of the top semi-pro teams over there up there, how would they do now?
I thought this was questions for Tom, but I think you would see 2 teams do well, and I think you see 2 teams not do well.
Got it. Where do you think the 2 teams would place? We're talking paintball fit in the last game here.
Right. I'm going to put him. I'm not going to put him anywhere near relegation, but I'm not going to put him too high.
Got it. Yeah, it'd be interesting because I've noticed through time that the semi-pro camps have gotten very professional in the way they do their business.
Agreed.
I think they learned some of that from your camp, you know what I mean? But they're very professional, probably better than some of the pro teams. So it'd be interesting to see as we move those guys up how that pans out. So
I'm looking forward to it because the semi-pro division has been really competitive the last 2-3 years.
Yeah.
So it looks good.
It's been crazy competitive for sure. So it's where I get most of my grief at this point.
Timeout with Tom. What's your question?
Where do you see paintball in 50 years?
50?
50 years.
Oh my God. All online. That's probably, that's crazy. What was 50 years ago? You know what I mean? Oh, wow, way to make me feel old. Yeah, that's interesting. I feel like we'll be playing in stadiums with some type of technology that actually reads the hit and doing the stats automatically. I don't think we'll ever lose the physical side of it, but I do think at some point in time we may lose the paint side of it as far as technology is concerned with tracking all that stuff. But other than that, hopefully it stays relatively the same with whatever format we leave this thing with, or I leave this thing with. Hopefully that's the format we end up with in 50 years.
And what's your question for Dan?
So how many media guys do we need on the pro field at any one time?
That's a great question. I look at it, so back to you about like the NFL stadiums, the more the merrier, but I think there's a way to control the chaos, whether it's certain sections you can be, whether it's certain levels of media, like you can only be on a certain line and then you're locked off there. Similar to like NHL, right? Like they have guys all over the rink, but they're in one spot and they can't move. I think if we can somehow get more media on there without getting in the way of referees, that's the big thing. Is that you don't want to disrupt the game. You don't want to disrupt the integrity of the game. So my happy medium, 15-ish, with a split between video and photo, because I think they're both really important.
I like hate when like someone gets in a snake and they make a good move and you see the media like scatter. I'm like, let's not give away their spot, guys. So that's where I'm concerned about the integrity of the game when we have too much media out there. So, but having them in zones is interesting. I've never thought of that. So thanks for the insight. We'll see what we can't do that for World Cup when we have everybody there. So thanks. You're welcome. Cool.
Timeout with Tom. What's your question?
Who is your favorite player and why is it Josh Hallberg?
Actually, my favorite player is probably Alex Fraige, and he is my favorite player because he plays good, he's pretty humble, and he's doing what he thinks to grow paintball, so I like that, right? I got to root for somebody, so there's plenty of people not to root for.
Makes sense.
So, yeah.
Absolutely.
And what's your question for him?
So if you were going to change one thing about the way we ref, what would you do? As far as, like, the rules of the reffing is concerned. Like, and I don't mean, like, get better refs type of deal. I mean, like, not throw 1-for-1 for pack hits or something along those lines.
That's a difficult question. It gets kind of tricky because sometimes there's calls that aren't necessarily always on point. So I don't know how to fix it, but some sort of way to kind of figure out what is actually a true call and an accidental call maybe. I don't know how to fix that though, I'll be honest.
Yeah, it's a tough one. It's a tough one. It's like, and some of the things that I know we talk about sometimes is like, you know, like we almost always throw a yellow if you're hit with a pack hit and you go out to the corner and you shoot, you know. And I'm not saying whether it should be a call or not a call, but I'm just wondering, like, are there rules that we could change and say, look, we don't want a flag on this, or do you think it's necessary to throw those? Because that's an unintentional, right? You're definitely an unintentional going to the corner, but you're gaining an advantage by doing it. So should the yellow flag get thrown or not get thrown?
Talk about some curveballs, Tom.
Yeah, I know, I'm tough. Well, so it's interesting because the Europeans, they like a lot of flags, and the Americans do not like a lot of flags, right? We want to play the game and kind of go through it, and the European players are more like, well, that was against the rules, we want the flag. So it's an interesting dynamic. So, well, we'll keep working on it.
Please.
Timeout with Tom. What's your question?
Do you prefer cold weather penguins or warm weather penguins?
Definitely warm weather penguins. If I'm going to take a picture of them, I want it to be warm. You know what I mean? Who wants to be in Antarctica?
I would go to Antarctica.
You would go to Antarctica? I want to go to Antarctica, but I'd rather South Africa.
You can do a cruise to it.
You can do
and you can see a lot of things and you get up close to them.
Yeah, that sounds expensive to me.
What's your question for him?
So what do you prefer now that you've been playing? Like, you like the classic format better, or you still like the X-Ball format?
I miss the competitiveness of the X-Ball format, but I enjoy the classic paintball better because you're able to spend more time talking to people, actually being friendly, where here I feel like it's more of, we're here, we're only with our guys, and I watch a couple games, and then I leave. So I like more people being around the field at all times with the classic.
I could fix that, just make people here longer. It is weird why we went to that situation, right? But yeah, I agree. The 10-man's got some camaraderie, so. Yes. Okay, cool.
Timeout with Tom. What's your question?
Is it true that you tried to pawn me off to a gypsy family in Spain?
I mean, who wouldn't pawn you off to a gypsy family in Spain? that is a fact. Go ahead.
What's your question for J-Mac?
So what does Mutiny need to do to make it into the pro division?
Stop sucking.
Yeah, it's hard when shit's going that way, right? It just feels like let's just, you know, we played for bad company, so sometimes things go brutal. So, yeah. Well, I have high hopes. It's a great team name, so great brand. Hopefully you go.
Rebuild year, same old shit, you know, just trying to make it happen. Just playing paintball, having fun. Really, at the end of the day, is kind of what it's about, right? Just keep it pushing. Your brand, your team.
I'm going to say it here, before I retire, I would like them at some point to move up to the pro rank. So that's an achievement of mine that I want to see happen. So
I'm his favorite player.
He is
regardless
my favorite
of what
player,
he says.
Yeah, whatever I say to everybody else. When he's around, he's my favorite player. All right.
Timeout with Tom.